Yo. If you see man driving a German whip, blacked out window leaning back, see man driving a German whip, look like a Bora, peas and that. I don't kick ball.
Hello and welcome to the MK4 Golf / Rabbit GTI R32 / Jetta metal H-gate kit. It's quite a mouthful, I know, but yeah, if you're here, if you've just stumbled across this video, then you're in for a treat for your MK4 Golf or Jetta. But if you're here because you've already bought a kit, then thank you very much. This is going to be the how to fit video for your new kit. I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible, quick and easy. I'll try and edit it in a way that's it's not so boring and taking up too much time of your life. We already done a kit for the Audi TT, the MK1. So if you've got one of them or you're interested in this kit, then yeah, you should find the how to fit video on that as well on my channel, and also on the platform where these are going to be sold. You should find the links for those as well. I'm going to go through the bits and pieces you should be receiving in your kit. So to start off with, you should receive a 15mm thick spacer. This is the one where it's got like a curved profile on it. You should also receive a 10mm spacer as well. These two products will be 3D printed. I 3D print them in-house. The reason I do that is for a few reasons. One is to obviously cost implications. In order to get them done in solid metal is very expensive, and also it's very heavy as well. You could billet them out of aluminium, however, same again, it's very expensive. Make the kits very expensive, so I go down the route of 3D printing it. It also allows me to sort of make adjustments in-house and tweak them in any way, and if somebody needs a kit as soon as possible, I've got the facilities to print one of these spacers or the kits as quickly as possible. So they're not the best, it's not the best material in the world, PLA, but I've tried other stuff, resin, tried doing them even out of just solid acrylic, but again, it's the cost implications of that. Everything has gone up. I don't need to tell you guys this, as you're fully aware. You know, the cost of all materials across the globe, everything's gone up. If the price of oil goes up, the majority of the components we use goes up, especially acrylic. So yeah, I've tried to be fair, tried to keep the price down to as minimal as I can. Previous customers of the TT one that I made the kit, same again. I used to create the spacers out of pure acrylic because at the time it wasn't as expensive to use. However, the price dramatically increased. I then reverted to doing 3D printed spacers, which then brought the price down. I was actually able to reduce the price of the kits for those, so that was a benefit. And not many people had any issues with it. You know, the only issue some people raise is, oh, you know, it's a bit ugly, but however, once these kits are fitted, you only really see the edges of the 3D printed spacers, so you don't see what's going on the top or bottom. Obviously I try and print them as to try and look as good as possible. However, they're more for practical purpose rather than aesthetic, because like I said, as long as the edge looks okay, then the tops and bottoms, yeah, it doesn't really matter. No one's ever really going to be seeing this. So if you've got an issue with aesthetics and a spacer where the top look, you know, you're not happy with the how the 3D printer has done it, and it's never even going to be seen, but you've still got issues with it, then don't bother buying the kit. I'd say that now. Like the amount of people where they think that they're going to be getting some Rolls-Royce spec components is just ridiculous. Some people's expectations are just way too high in this world. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out now for anyone who thinks that they're going to be receiving Ferrari or Rolls-Royce parts. Yeah, it's not going to happen. However, I still, as I mentioned, I still try and make them as best as I possibly can, 3D print them and as neat as I can, and yeah, they are produced to a standard that is working. I've actually made with these actual kits, they take some time to develop. I've made multiple prototypes, I've tried multiple different materials, I've tried multiple different setups. This setup that we've got now and that we're launching is the one that has worked, and is the one that is the only way that this is going to work as a H-gate kit. So what you see here today and what you're going to be buying in your kit, it's taken months and months of development to tweak and adjust in order for it to work. So, and once it is done, it does look actually good, and it does work and feel quite well. I've actually been through 3 different Volkswagen Golfs in order to test this product on, which all 3 of them was fine. The only cars I haven't tested it on is a Jetta, but I've been told that the Jetta is exactly the same setup, interior wise and gear linkage and gearbox and stuff. So that's what we're promoting for as well. If however you buy one for a Jetta and you're saying that, oh, there's something wrong or there's an issue, speak to me. You know, I'm a very down-to-earth guy, a very down-to-earth seller. If there's an issue, I will always refund people in full. If you're not happy with the kit, you just send it back. As long as I can resell it in the same, you know, if it returns back to me in the same condition that I sent it out to you in, then I'd be more than happy to be refunding you in full. But if there's a slight adjustment that needs doing, I want to know about it, you know, so I can adjust it, tweak it, change it. You know, if there's something I can do in order to make it work and feel better, then that's what this whole thing is about. You know, it's a brand new a brand new kit, you know, a brand new product. Nobody else sells this on the planet apart from me. So, you know, if I don't get any constructive criticism or feedback back, then I'll never be able to progress and move on with the development of the product. But I've got it to as close as possible as I can get, and it is working for the Volkswagen Golf. So same again, I haven't tried it in a GTI or R32, but I've been told that it's exactly the same. You know, I've been informed by a few different mechanics and people in the trade that they are the same setup, same interior. So yeah, they should suffice. So right, instead of me keep banging on, I talk a lot, and excuse my cough because I'm just recovering over a cold that I've had recently because of this ever-changing weather. Also in your kit, you're going to get an illuminated spacer. So this is made out of 100% acrylic. It's you could have any LED put in there that you like. So the one that I'm going to be fitting today is a blue one. It's got blue LED in there. I have tried to put in those multicolour, those RGB LED ones, the ones with like the little remote control, but it's quite crap. I tried it in the TT one as well. It doesn't really give you what you want, because the distance and the amount of strip you put in there is only about 18, so you haven't really got that many to enough abundance of LEDs in order to give that actual color that you're pushing on there. So it looks very strange. So you try and press white, for instance, it doesn't really look white, it looks really like different. And same with the blue or the red. They're not as strong as if you just fitted red LEDs or blue LEDs. So that's all I do. I just offer you whichever color you want. That's the one that I'm going to fit in there. If at any stage you're like, oh well, I want to put the RGB ones in there, then you're more than welcome to strip the LED out yourself and then just refit your own LED in there. You know, you once you bought the kit, you know it's yours. But yeah, for now, these acrylic spacers, they're solid acrylic, 100% recyclable as well, obviously trying to save the planet. And they will come, as you see on here, I've got like a cigarette lighter attachment. That's not going to come as standard with your kit. The reason I've attached this is because some people do just like plug and play. So if you want this, you can add this on. It's an additional purchase. I only charge like an extra £5, and the reason I charge that, even though you're like, oh, you could probably get them for a couple of quid, yeah, you can, but the amount of time it takes to actually wire this up that's what I charge the extra few quid for. So if you want the ease of just plugging this straight in rather than having to wire this up to the existing light or cigarette lighter, then you know, that's a £5 is literally nothing. You know, some people would prefer to do that. So I thought I'd just explain that now, so in case you thought, oh, I've received a kit and I haven't got one of them on the end, it's because you didn't select that additional purchase. So that's the acrylic spacer. Same again, apologies for me mumbling on and rabbiting on. It's just quite a lot to go through, and some people do like to hear the extra detail. You will also receive the important part, which is the metal plate. This is made in high grade brushed stainless steel. It's a premium grade, it's very strong. Same again, in the past, I think on the TT one, some other people who tried to make the kits made some in aluminium. They were chipping and bending, so it's not the correct material to use. This is as good as it gets. It's expensive, however, it's what you need. If you're shifting through gears, especially going through the gates and stuff, you need it to be durable, and this is what gives you that durability. As you can see on here, I don't know if, same again, I keep bringing up the pre-existing TT ones, but there is a difference with this. The TT ones, we didn't have a separate gear for the reverse. Because of the way the gear linkage was, but with this setup we are able to create a separate gear. And for all you people who know about these, you know, this is based off the R8. It has a H-gate kit. You know, Ferrari has in the past. Lotus has had this as well. So we've aesthetically gone by that design of how they've done it. However, if you can see, you know, the keen eye, this actual prong here which goes into the reverse, I've made that deliberately because you'll see in a moment, once we start taking this this gear stick apart, you'll actually see, in order to get into that reverse gear, you have to downshift slightly in order to push it in there, because at the moment the actual setup, you have to basically like push down on it and then move as far to the left to put it into reverse. But with how this is set up and how for this kit to work, we have to remove that option where you push down, where there's a spring in there, you can see, and we have to remove that spring, so there is no spring anymore. So it will just literally be a full push to the left and then up. But with the safety of these kits, and if you are racing or you're driving and you're switching gears pretty fast, this extra long prong will prevent you from going too far over to the left. So if you need to quickly downshift and get back into first gear, you will hit that prong first. It's very hard, like I said, during the development of driving it, to try and accidentally throw it into reverse. You'd have to be seriously not concentrating on what you're doing. So I thought I'd point that out as well. I might point it out again later, so don't judge me if I keep bringing stuff up that I've already mentioned. Right, the last thing in your kit you will receive is all the nuts, bolts, and the little retainers that you'll see in here. We've got some small M4 bolts, we've got some long M4 bolts, and we've got some wing nuts in there, and we've also got a strip. It's like a double-sided magnetic strip, which I'll explain later of why that's in there. So now we're gonna tackle getting this gear stick off. So all you do is this actual gator thing, if you come to the front side of it and you push in and up, it should just pop up like that, and then from the back it should just come away. So it's very simple design from Volkswagen. What you're going to do is you're going to pull the gator all the way up to the top, and if you see there's like a metal retainer. So all I literally done was, I believe there is like a tool you can get to get that off, like a specialized tool, but me being me, I just literally wedged a flathead screwdriver in the gap that you'll see on there, and I basically gave it like a good twisting around, and it did eventually give way, and I was able to just literally pull the thing off. So the thing would just come off like that, and yeah, that it was pretty easy to get that off. So you can set that aside. If you want to resell the car, you know, and you want to sell the kit first and then not sell the car with the kit, you know, obviously keep that to one side, and you can just put that on afterwards. Right. So what you'll be left with is this sort of plastic, I don't know what you'd call it. Yeah, it's like some plastic retainer gear springy thing. Yeah, so that's what we call it. That's the technical term we're gonna call it today. You'll notice on some of my setup as I go through it today, because I've already been through and I've already taken this thing apart and I've already set up the kit and, you know, the wiring, all of that, there'll be certain parts or elements where you think, oh, mine's looks slightly different. On this actual one that you're seeing now at this stage, there was like a little rubber, like a rubber ring around the top on the inside. Once we take this off, so there's just bits of rubber on there which I took off, and they're quite greasy. Oh, it's just fallen there. It's quite greasy, so I just removed it, but it doesn't make any difference in regards to how we're going to fit and remove this stuff today. So this is like a Starkey bolt that is on the top. So all you do is take this off and just be careful when it comes off, because I believe it will want to pop up like this in the air because of the spring that's underneath there. So same again, just put your bolt to one side and take this thingy-mabobby off. As you see, the spring there was inside, so you've then exposed this gear stick basically, and same again, just put all of these bits and pieces to one side in case you need to reassemble it at a later date. This bolt here, I'll just mention this to you, this is screwed into the top, which is quite important for anyone who wants to buy a new gear knob, which you probably will do for this actual kit. Some gear knobs you can get that you know, have a male bolt part which can screw straight into the top of that. You know, there is other gear knobs which they have like a little grub screw on the side where you can just basically tighten it and put it on. There's other ones where you can put a converter on there, so we'll go through that afterwards anyway. But this bolt is a M6, I believe. Yeah, M6. Okay, so once you've got this off the plastic, you'll see all of your components underneath here. That actual plastic thingy-mabob, this thing, you'll see on the bottom there it has like a little groove component, where when it's at the bottom you'll see there's like a metal retainer inside here which is poking up. It's like a long fin. Basically when you push down on your gear and then shift over to the left, it basically allows you to go into that gear. So that's all that thing does. However, we can't keep this on the gear stick for obvious reasons. It wouldn't go through the gates and it would look pretty terrible, to be honest. So that's why we have to remove that, and that's why we have to do the option of what we mentioned about the separate gear for the reverse gear. So now that that's off, what you'll see is at the back here, which you have your ashtray and your tray, what I've done is I've basically taken, you just pull this thing towards yourself. It's like a ashtray which you can empty. You pull that towards yourself, and if you look down there, there'll be a screw which is just a small, same again, a Starkey, which I removed, and basically that then allows, oh, here it is. So I was looking everywhere for it. So this little bolt here, or screw, was inside the ashtray. It just keeps the ashtray loose. I just took that out, and this actual whole ashtray can actually lift up, and you'll need that access later on, either whether you're just going to plug and play with this cigarette lighter, the 12 volt connector to put into the cigarette lighter. It's a neat way to put the wiring through back there, and as well as if you're going for the option of just wiring it in, then you will need to undo that anyway, and you'll see access to the back of the wiring of the cigarette lighter and the light that's back there. That's what you'll wire to. I'm not gonna explain how to wire it up to the 12 volt cigarette lighter or to the light, because it's not obvious, but it's sort of like, if you've gone down that route and that's the option that you want to choose, then you will be more than capable of wiring that to the lighter. It's literally 2 wires which you connect to positive, negative. The light will either work or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you just switch the wires around, and then there you go. So just use a connector block. You know, I'm not going to tell people how to suck eggs. Just if you're not sure on how to wire it and you don't want the plug and play system, the 12 volt cigarette thing that you push into the cigarette lighter, if you don't want that option and you do want it wired in, then get someone who knows how to wire it in. You know, don't just think, oh, you didn't explain in the video of how to wire. Yeah, because if you go to someone who knows what they're doing, I'd prefer that way rather than somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and trying to wire it and trying to go by my instructions, and then me getting in trouble, or somebody trying to sue me because, oh, I wired it and now it's blown all my fuses and all that stuff. So just get someone who knows what they're doing to wire it into the light. Right, so what the first component you're going to need is your 15mm spacer. This is the one where it's got the curve down the edge, and if you look at the profile of these things, you have a wide edge which is at the top, and then you have a smaller edge which is at the bottom. Not an edge, a smaller width which you have at the bottom than compared to the top. So always keep that in mind on when you're putting this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my small M4 bolts out. Okay, so the first component we're going to fit is this 15mm spacer. So what you'll need is you'll have 2 wing nuts. That's the wing nut there. I'll come close to the camera. Sorry for the camera work as well, it's not very great. That's the wing nuts, and then you'll have 2 of the smaller Mark IV bolts. What you'll need as well is you'll have 4 little 3D printed retainer squares, and if you see them, the hole will be off center, and that's for a specific reason. So I'll mention that in a second as to why that is the case. So what you want to do is on the underside of the 15mm, you want to, on the top edge, because this wider bit at the top, this wider part of the spacer is the top and the smaller width is on the bottom. So on the top bit on the back, you want to be using just the normal small bolts. So I will attach them to the position, and then I'll show you after I've attached it. Right, so as you see, I've attached the 2 prongs to the top. Prongs? Why am I calling them prongs now? The retainer prongs, let's call them that then. And as you see, the reason the hole was off center is so you've got the extended bit which hangs over the lip. If you see that, look, it's created like a recess in between there. And what I've done is I've actually tightened these bolts up already, in order to, when this actually goes over, you're actually going to basically wedge this on the underside. You'll know what I mean. Once it goes in, you'll actually feel it and think, oh yeah, I can feel that's solid. So yeah, you can tighten up those bolts there. And now on these bottom ones, the opposite side, I'm now going to put the wing nuts. So same process, but just using the wing nuts. However, on this occasion, I'm not actually going to fully tighten them up. I'm going to leave them a bit loose, and you'll see why as well in a sec. So there you go. So the smaller width, which is the bottom, I've done the same, exactly the same thing, you know, left the actual overhang as well, of the retainer prongs, that's what we called them, yeah. Yeah, but I've left it loose, because what you're going to do is when this goes in, those things overhanging, you're actually going to turn them the opposite way to firstly put this spacer in. Then once you're actually in there, then you're going to feel on the underside and twist this back round. You're going to twist it back round so it does overhang, and what you'll do in the process is you'll tighten up the wing nut, and you'll feel it. You'll see that this component here, I'll try and get that on camera, it's really hard filming in this car. This overhang, as you go round with it like that, it will basically wedge this spacer into position. So if that makes sense. Right, before we put in this this first component, which is 15mm spacer, what I've done was on the center at the back here, I've actually just filed a little recess, like a little notch. I've filed a little notch out. That's for when I put my cable through, that you've got somewhere for the wire to come out. So it just makes it a bit neater. I know there's some purists out there that's like, oh no, I don't want to attach anything to there. You don't need to do this, but I thought, let me mention what I done. You know, I just filed a little notch out of the center there, so I thought I'd just mention that to you guys. Okay, in your kit, before you put this 15mm spacer on, you would have received it's like a magnetic strip, double-sided tape on the back. What you need to do is just cut off some strips, about 4. I would have included enough for you to cut more, but it's just to be in case anything happens, or you lose one, or you didn't cut one right, or you need to cut some more. So you should have some additional ones in there. So what I've done was I've cut strips, put that to the camera, about this size, so probably about 8mm wide. Reason I've done that is you need to double side them on to your 15mm spacer, and I'll do that now, and then I'll explain afterwards of why we've done that. So what I've done is I've put 2 on, if you're looking at it from the top, so I've put 2 on the left side of the spacer, double sided them on, and I've put 1 up the top, which you'll see there. The reason being is when you actually slide this thing in, which your front goes in first, and you wedge it up at the back, right, so once you're in, sorry, there's a bit of creaking going on because this ashtray is a bit loose at the back. So once you've wedged your front section in, your back section, just make sure your wing nuts and your retainer prongs are clear of the way. So I'm going to push down. If you see that, there's a little gap there. That's because when you push this down and you tighten up the wing nuts, it puts this whole spacer solid. And the reason we've put those double-sided magnetic strip sections to one side and to the top is because I've deliberately made this kit, and specifically this part of the kit, the spacer, with a bit of a gap. For one, a couple of reasons. For one is the expansion of the materials, and for 2, it's also, once it has actually been, you know, fully constructed, fully together, when you are shifting through the gates, sometimes, like on the previous kits we made, which is the TT ones, sometimes it felt like it was rubbing a bit more in certain gears than others. So with this, if you do shift through the gears and you feel a bit of rubbing and it seems a bit biased to the left, or the kit seems like it needs to shift over by 1mm or 2, you know, in a certain direction, that's what I've included the metal strips for. That's what these are for. So you can actually just take this apart and then exchange the strips over to the opposite side, which would then shift your kit over, which would then allow the gears to run a lot smoother, you know. So that's the reason why I've added that. So you're probably wondering, like, what's the case? And it is a snug fit, but you will feel, once you actually wedge it in there, you will feel that it is snug and it's in place. So once that's done, you can now feel on the underside, and you can push this edge down while you then rotate your retainer prongs all the way round, and then you're basically going to wedge this. Might be a bit fiddly, but once you get there. Right, so once you've actually tightened these up, like I said, just that's the reason why we put wing nuts in there. It's just so you could tighten them up by hand as good as possible, because trying to get in there with an Allen key, I found during the development process that it was a bit awkward. So as you see now, there's no gap at the front there now underneath, because I've tightened that up. What I'll do is I'll put a picture up on screen now to show you what the underside looks like of what you want to be achieving, because it's hard to show, you know, even if I pulled the camera up to show you what's going on, it's hard to see. So this, just make sure that they are tight, and if during time it feels like it's loosening up, just go back in there and retighten them up. You know, obviously due to differences in material, you know, expansion, the weather, the heat, you know, temperatures and stuff, it can contract or expand, so sometimes it might want to loosen up over time. Okay, so once that's in position, you want to get your acrylic spacer, and if you have got one of these sockets that you need to plug in, I'm going through the gap and then up through the space where we removed, well, we didn't remove the ashtray, but we shifted the ashtray up. Hang on, it's a bit fiddly because this one is a bit large. So I've put the wire through the hole and then up through the back. So what I've done is I've put the wire through, and you see there's that little notch I was talking about. I'm going to put my wire through the little notch there. So I'm going to leave enough wire out in order to plug this thing in before I then wedge this ashtray back into position. So I'm just going to give that a little test. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So if you're happy with the position of your wiring once it's through there, I would suggest then bolting this ashtray back down. Right, so as you can see, I've now bolted that ashtray back up, and the cable is coming through the gap, through my little notch that I made. And reason being, you know, you could actually, when it's not in use, you could still close the ashtray or still use the ashtray while it's in that position. But as you see, I've left enough cable out in order for me to plug this in afterwards. I must say, excuse like the nastiness that's in the ashtray and stuff. These are all just project cars. Like, I literally bought, you know, as cheap as possible, the Mark 4s, and I haven't maintained them. I haven't, you know, I've given them a quick wipe down and hoovering up, but I haven't, this isn't my car, you know, and none of them have been my car. So, you know, once I've done with this video, this then gets sold on, and then we move on to the next project. So I just thought I'd mention that in case you thought I was like some filthy guy, when actually I'm not. This is purely just for product purposes. So okay, so now that your wiring is through and your 50mm is wedged on, you're then going to introduce your LED spacer. Now just make sure when you're putting the cables in that your cables, if there's any additional wire, just push the cables to the back, so then they're not in anyone's way, not in the gear stick's way as well specifically. Okay, so I'm sitting my LED spacer on top of there, and then you're just going to line up the holes because the bolts are going to go through them in a moment. Now this 10mm spacer, same again, there's going to be an option for you to add a bit of lycra. Let me explain why. I'll show you on this other donor bit here. So on the TT ones, people said, oh, we need a gator, you know. Some people said, you know, kids put a bit of Lego down there and, you know, sweets and stuff through the gap in the top of the H-gate, you know, so it's exposed, and you can also see all of the gubbins through the holes. So people wanted like a gator option. So same again, went through many different options, different variants, and the solution we came up with was a bit of black lycra, because it's very stretchy. Once it's actually on there, and you're shifting through the gears, you can't put anything down there. And also it's the best sort of option that we could find. Tried using like a leather one, you know, try get some rubber one, but it's very stiff, very hard to use. So this is the option. So if you want it covered up and you do want a gaiter, then select the extra bit of lycra when purchasing. What I'll actually do is the 10mm spacer, if you do purchase it, I'll send you your 10mm spacer with double-sided tape already attached to it. The reason being is I'm going to send you a piece of lycra, but a square piece, which you would then lay on the table. You'll undo your double-sided tape, you'll peel it off, you'll then push this down onto the lycra, and then what you do is you cut round it yourself. Lycra's, I don't know if anyone's even tried to cut lycra before, but it's a bit of a pain in the arse. So as you see on here, it's not the neatest job that I've ever done. However, it's within the parameters of the spacer. And it's the double-sided is just literally merely there to hold it down whilst you bolt this thing down, because once it's bolted down, it shouldn't move from that moment on. So it's just merely there for you to be able to, for one, cut around the lycra. Make sure you've got some sharp scissors, and also once you've actually double-sided it done and you've trimmed around it, as you can see there, I've literally just put a hole in the middle, because that's going to go over your gear stick, which you'll see in a moment. And what I've also done as well, I've pushed like a small thin screwdriver. See through these holes here, the four holes here, I've pushed like a screwdriver through the back, so when the bolts go through, it's got something to get through, even though with force it will go through there, but I just thought I'd mention that as well. So after you've double-sided your lycra on the back and trimmed around it within the parameter and put your little hole in the front, then it should look something like that. And yeah, you don't have to pay for the additional lycra, you know, for me to send you the lycra in the kit. You can use, you know, any black lycra, you know, get one of your missus leggings, or, you know, steal some of her cycling shorts or something, and just cut them from there. So you don't need to pay for the additional just for that. You can get your own lycra if you want. You know, it does cost, you know, a few quid, you know, for a patch. So yeah, it's up to you. Either you want me to send you one in the kit, or you can get your own. So after you've done it, it should look like that. And obviously the hole, this is going to go straight down through the center and then on top. Right, and then we're going to get our 4 long bolts, M4 long bolts, and your Allen key, and basically the long bolts go straight through down to the bottom spacer. So you might need to force it in there because of the lycra, but once you're through, I think we're through. 1 second, there we go, now we're in there. Just tighten that up a little bit until I get the other ones in. There we go. And let's force you in. Excuse my camera work, by the way. You know, I'm not the best when it comes to user generated content and, you know, filming and all of that stuff. So, you know, because my hand's in the way. But you'll find as well with this 3D printed stuff, like you can feel when it gets tight, the screws, but if at any time you hear that it starts to creak, that's when you know you're starting to over tighten it. So that is very important. Do not over tighten the bolts, you know, get them tight, but as soon as you start hearing a bit of a creak, which I could hear there, I know that I'm tight enough now. So tighten up all 4 of these bolts. And you'll see as well during videos that I might speed sections up. So if you start hearing me sound like a chipmunk, or it seems like I'm doing something at super speed, it's because I'm just trying to save you guys time, you know, of watching me do boring stuff. So after that's done, this should be this should be pretty solid in position, so there's no movement. You can hear the creaking of the actual unit itself, because even when you do use these kits, I thought I'd mention as well, you know, this whole section, this whole center console will shift slightly, you know, but if you wanted this even more solid, you'd have to sort of take this whole thing apart and then, you know, start introducing, you know, bolting down or adding extra support so it doesn't move. But I just thought I'd mention that as you are using this kit, sometimes it will shift slightly, you know, there will be a bit of movement in there. So right, once that's done, we're then going to get your metal plate, and that obviously goes straight over the top, and line it up, and then put in all of your smaller bolts. They should be the only bolts that are left in your kit. So I'm going to do that now, and save you the time of watching me do that. Right, so once that's all bolted up, it should look like this. Yeah, where you got your cable coming through that notch there. You've got all of that bolted in. Everything is solid. And you'll see now where I've positioned this camera, same again, apologies for the work, but you'll see this prong that I was talking about is longer than the others. That's why before I put this gear knob on, when you shift over, you hit that prong first. You see, if I get in a different angle, you see, so you hit that prong first, so that's your indicator to go into first. Yeah, so in order to go into reverse, you'd have to shift down slightly to go fully across and fully up. So that's the whole point of that prong there. So I thought I'd reiterate that during this process. Right, so you see I've put a gear knob on. This is just same again, another one that I just had sort of lying around, but it's not ideal. It hasn't got a grub screw in order to lock it into position. You can get sort of adapters for gear sticks. You just look on there, you know, whichever one that you want to go with. You just need to ensure that it's gonna sit, and you know, you'd be able to attach it to this actual gear stick. The bolt that's in the top was an M6 bolt. A male goes into, you know, an M6 male bolt goes into female on the top, or the width of the actual top is 9 mil, sorry, my mistake. It's 9 millimeters thick. So before, you know, you order a knob, just make sure that it's going to fit prior to putting the kit together. And yeah, same again, I don't offer an additional I don't offer any, you know, knobs, gear knobs for you to buy, because everyone's preferences are different. I don't want to be stocking hundreds of different styles of gear knobs just for people's preferences. So yeah, just find whichever one you want for yours. And yeah, also I thought I'd mention this actual gear stick here. Before you put this kit together, you can actually sand this down and polish it up, you know, if you wanted to, making it look a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So what I'm going to do now is I'll go through the gears. So that's first gear, second, third, fourth, fifth, and this is an actual fifth. We did have a 6 gear one, but this is an actual 5th one, so I can't show you the 6 gear because it hasn't got 6 gear in this particular model. But again, if you've got a 5-speed manual, then there's going to be an option when purchasing, and same again if you've got a 6-speed. We're going to reverse, like I said, you just go down slightly, across and up. What you'll find is this lycra bit in the middle, if you make the hole too big in your lycra, it will start to peel away, so it starts to look a bit ugly. So don't make your hole too large, just make it small enough in order for you to get it over the gear stick. But it does the job. You know, it's not the best ideal solution, but it does what it needs to do. As you see here as well, as I'm shifting through the gears, you're hearing the clonking, because it does clonk in and out of gears. But that's the whole point of a shifter, you know, a H-gate shifter. People in the past who bought the TT one, you know, some of them are like, oh, I'm not happy that it actually, you can hear it going into the gears, as in it'd be near impossible to try and make these so you don't actually hear it shifting into the gears. But that's the whole point of these, you know, and that's part of the fun of it. And same again, as you're putting it through the gears, just, you know, don't be too crazy forceful with it. Obviously, same again, this center console isn't, you know, there is a bit of play in there, so if you try and be too forceful with it, it will want to move slightly, you know, as you're going through the gears. If you can see that or not, a little bit of a wiggle, but apart from that, yeah, they're quite good. These actual bolts as well, if you've got a specific color car, you know, if you've got a blue car or you know, a red one, you know, you can buy these M4 little 12 mil, 10 mil bolts, yeah, 10 to 12 mil. You can buy them. Same again, I don't sell them because otherwise I'd have to stock hundreds of different colors of bolts, which I'm not willing to do. So yeah, M4 bolts, 12 mil. You can change the color of that. Right, so also what I want to point out is, due to there being 4 different materials, so you have the existing center console, the 3D printed material, the solid acrylic spacer, and the metal H plate. Obviously, because of expansion and contraction and stuff, if you live in a hot country and you've ordered this and you live in a hot country, just be wary of where you're parking your car. Or if you could cover your kit, you know, cover this kit over with a you know, a towel or something in the evening, because obviously due to this being under tension in this section here, what we found is, we done tests, you know, we put a heater in the car, put it on full blast and kept it on for some time. Over time, you know, it doesn't happen instantly, but over time you might find that this bottom spacer here wants to create a tiny gap between itself and the spacer, the acrylic spacer, due to just the heat, you know, because obviously 3D printed stuff, it gets printed, it is printed using heat, you know, it melts down the plastic and then it cools down, and then that's what you get, solid object. So we are tweaking the design. We are making the internals of this spacer a bit more denser to try and sort of prevent that, but I thought I'd mention it to you guys, because with the TT kits, you know, people have bought these from all over the world. Some people live in very hot countries, so I thought I'd mention it. But in order to target that as well, obviously this is a new product, you know, there might be issues along the way, so if you have any issues at all, please do not hesitate to contact me first. Please do not just leave negative feedback and then try and, you know, just leave negative comments in regards to it. If there's issues, we want to hear about it, you know, and we want to try and rectify this. You know, customer service is always paramount for us. So yeah, if there's an issue, we want to try and, you know, resolve the issue and make the product better for the future, you know, and for the future customers. But yeah, I thought I'd mention that anyway. So we're also I'm going to be putting an option up for people if they do want replacement parts. So, you know, if what I mentioned about if there is slight warping after a year or two and you're like, oh, I actually want to replace that, you know, I'm gonna put an option up for a replacement as cheap as possible. Obviously, as long as you can cover the postage cost and the cost of the material, you know, of what it cost me to actually produce it, that's all I'm going to literally be charging for it. I'm not going to try and overcharge anyone, because if you're ordering a replacement part, it's because you're a previous customer. So I always try and look after my customers as much as possible. So if you do want any extra additional components and they're not listed, just contact me. I'll be more than happy to arrange or create a listing where you can actually purchase some additional parts. I was also going to mention that you'll see include within your kit, and also on the listing you'll see a recommendation in regards to the underside of your H plate. You can sort of just lightly file away like the sharp edge on the underside, because if you start to get scoring in your gear stick, that's due to the fact that as you're shifting through the gears, the sharp edge that's on the underside, it may be scoring your actual gear stick. So if you want to prevent that, it's a good sort of tip in order to for you not to get so much scoring on the stick. I know to some people it doesn't, you know, people are not really bothered with that, but some people are. And yet again, the same reason as to why I don't offer that service myself is because it takes too much time, and it's a cost implication as well. So if you want to do that yourself, then, you know, I'd recommend doing it. But yeah, I would love to do it myself, but same again, trying to keep the costs down on these kits, otherwise they'll be extortionate price. Nobody would want to buy them if I included all of these additional services. So but yeah, I thought I'd mention that. I'll also take this opportunity to put anything else up on screen, something that I may have forgot, or something that I overlooked or oversaw, or something that I just failed to mention during the how to fit video. So this would be the time where I'll put it up on screen during the editing, or even later on at a later date. I believe YouTube allow you to add additional stuff that I failed to mention, because obviously, same again, this is a brand new product. You know, I keep saying it. It's a retrofit. You know, I made it as plug and play as possible for you guys. But it is a pretty cool addition to your car, and a modification that nobody else has ever seen. So if you're one of the first people to get these and then add them to your car, I know for a fact, as soon as you go to a car show and somebody else sees it, they'll be like, I want one of them. So I'd appreciate if you could recommend me to other people, or if you do go to car shows, you know, to put in a good word for me. And yeah, I really look forward to seeing some of you guys set up, and girls, obviously. I'm not biased. Yeah, so if you have fitted them and, you know, you've gone for a specific color to your car, you know, more than happy to send me some pictures of your car, you know. And same again, any comments or questions, or something you're not sure of, or something you want to know, I'm down to earth. You know, send me a question, I'm always happy to respond. And yeah, I look forward to seeing your guys set up. Right, so there you go, that's it, switched on. The video doesn't really represent how blue the colour actually is, but it's much more blue in real life. You just have to take my word for it on that one. Same again, you can wire this up to the pre-existing cigarette lighter, and there's a light there in the ashtray. If you do that, then this light won't come on unless you turn the actual side lights on, or your main beam. So some people prefer that way. Others with just the plug and play system, you know, of plugging the 12 volt into the cigarette lighter socket. Some people might just want to manually plug that in and out whenever they want to use it, or leave it plugged in. It's entirely up to you guys, you know. And I think that's about it. Like I said, I've shown you through all the gears. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Let me give you a little close up of the kit. Please remember to like the video and to subscribe to the channel. Thank you, I really appreciate it.